Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm about to get into this quick reaction video to the recent news about Prince's estate being split. If this is news to you, you're going to want to stick around to hear why this is important to you and your asset protection strategy. Princell, estate planner, cryptocurrency enthusiast, uh, tax preparer, I don't know. But listen, do me a favor, if you're a family or a friend, hit that like button just to show me that at the very least you got this far and you're doing me a favor. All right. So I'm gonna give you a second to do that. All right, let's go ahead and get into this video.
Recent events of the Prince estate. It seems today that finally, and it's been a really long time, after 6 years of legal wrangling, the Prince estate have finally agreed upon its value with the IRS. And that value is going to be set at 156.4 million. Now, according to the Star Tribune in Minneapolis, this agreement was made after the estate originally, through Comerica Bank and Trust, valued the estate at 82.3 million. But the IRS said, no, we think it's 163.2 million. And they've finally settled on 156.4. So it's very much within what the IRS felt it was worth.
Now, I want to mention real quick before, and I'm going to kind of do this throughout the video, but what that essentially is also detailing is, what the estimated value of an estate is at the time of purchase versus fair market value price. All right. So the IRS is making its assessment based on fair market value price, not the price at the time of purchase, but the value of the asset in its current day and age.
It's quite interesting in a sense that this is both good and bad. You can look at it in different ways. Londell Macmillan, who's obviously been the attorney for 3 of Prince's siblings, said that it's been a long 6 years, and it certainly has. It's tricky because on one hand, it's good that it's settled. It's good that finally we can start to move on in terms of getting Prince's work out there even more. There are, however, slightly concerning aspects to this. As you remember, Primary Wave, the music company that buys a lot of artist catalogues, they already own 42% of the Prince estate. They bought 100% of the interest from Omar Baker, Prince's brother. They also had previously had deals with Tyka Nelson for 90% of her stake and 100% of Alfred Jackson's estate, who has sadly passed away.
Now, with respect to Prince and Prince's family, number one, like, it's never an easy thing dealing with death. Death of a loved one, someone who has great amount of influence, and also someone whose hard work and diligence has been able to benefit their loved ones after their passing. That said, it's unfortunate that Prince's estate is being split in this way, right? What we're also witnessing is a probate court process. Now, although certain things or certain elements of Prince's estate were documented and properly held as assets of the estate, things more specifically music, as it were, intellectual property, some of the other things were left out, and so those left out assets are now the subject of a probate court, in which case now we see parties after the passing of Prince now fighting and bickering. And I don't think that that's was anywhere in Prince's mind at the time of his creation for his estate. So, but there are ways to avoid this for those of you who are interested.
Way. This means obviously whilst they don't hold the majority, they do hold 42%. The rest of it is held by the other three siblings who didn't sell to Primary Wave. This gets a little bit more complicated because Londell Macmillan, the lawyer who obviously worked with Prince and is representing some of the siblings, and Charles Spicer, they have both transferred and be given basically an undisclosed portion of the three siblings' estate, presumably as a sort of, I don't know, I presume as a payment for their services. We don't know how much they own, but that obviously throws them into the mix. Londell has said that Primary Wave has never worked with Prince and does not have a majority of the interest of the Prince estate. And he said that all future decisions of the Prince estate will be determined and need the approval and direction of our group, family and friends of Prince who actually work with him. We will work with Primary Wave and any other party that holds interest in the estate. Now, the concern for me is if one more sibling gives away or sells their share to Primary Wave, then Primary Wave will have a majority, and it will be basically that Primary Wave own.
Now, selling of assets or shares of an estate is an example of an estate or trust owned LLC, right? So a couple of things can happen or be learned and identified from this particular unique situation, right? The trust having been created required a certain entity or use of name, right? And so in order to use that name, essentially an entity was created in the name of Prince to do business specifically for the management of his assets, right? So the estate it's very large and encompassing and really needs to be also like, it needs to be said that I don't think that was in Prince's mind or in his estate plan, right? And had he been alive today, I'm pretty sure he would be like, no, you can't sell shares of the estate. It's only for, family members, and specific assets are to be distributed to specific people or entities. I'm just saying, and those shares shouldn't be sold by anyone else, right? And I mean, like, hey, maybe that's their right within having the estate, but I think that's a way of like, shortchanging yourself now for, fast money when the long-term benefits of the estate are going to be, hey, I just don't get it.
The largest controlling share of the Prince estate. So that's very close to happening. Obviously, the siblings, aren't getting any younger, and it's possible that this could very easily end up fully in the hands of Primary Wave. Now, on one hand, there's a financial imperative here that if they pay all this money for the Prince estate, they're going to want to make money from it, which means they're going to put, Prince's music in TV ads, in movies and video games, and to get them on streaming sites. And so, in one hand, you've got the situation where they're going to want to make their money back, which means they're going to have to push Prince, even more into the public domain. And hopefully, this will mean more people discover Prince, more people become aware of Prince. Perhaps they hear a song on a video game, perhaps they see a TV advert, and they then go back and discover the amazing back catalogue Prince has. But on the other hand, we don't obviously want anything that's going to cheapen Prince's name. We don't want anything that's going to sort of exploit Prince's image. So it's a tricky balance, and it's something we really, as Prince admirers, really need to keep our eye on. I think there's going to be this tension between, what's the mainstream, what can sell the most, what can, get the most money in, and what possibly a lot of us would want, more obscure releases, more, vault tracks, more unreleased items. So it's going to be interesting to watch that. The Star Tribune do mention the comparison actually with Michael Jackson, who, they talk about the estate and how much Michael Jackson's estate was worth. But it's interesting because the administrator for Michael Jackson valued his wealth at only 7 million, which is clearly somewhat low. The IRS said no, it's worth 1.1 billion before apparently dropping its appraisal to 480.
Now, I want to say that, like, when you have an estate that's valued at over, currently, if memory serves me correctly, $2 million, you're going to need an attorney to help you create your estate, right? Because you're also going to need a tax agent to help you out with that, because there are some unique details towards helping to reduce the taxation of certain assets that are held within an estate. All right. And if again, if the value of an estate is over $2 million, you got to take, you're paying for that security, right? You're paying for the assurity of knowing that your loved ones are not going to, have their asset, your gift to them is not going to be lost, right? There's not going to be any bickering. All right. So if you don't have an estate or a trust put in place, you don't have to have an estate of $2 million to have your estate in place. 70% of people die without wills. 70% of Americans specifically die without wills. And an estate is not just something that's purely for the wealthy. It can be used for anyone, whether you have a wicked jump shot or you're, selling precious rocks. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying have your estate plan for in case ish happens. You know what I'm saying? In case ish happens, in case of incarceration, right? Because some of our brothers and sisters, they're out there wild and crazy in these streets. Let's just be honest, right? And hey, we got, our community seems to be more incentivized to become an entertainer of sorts, as means to creating economic or financial value, right? And, there's a lot of intellectual property that goes into that, a lot of thought, maybe not so much, that's a matter of opinion, but it's not to say that things won't change from how they are today to how we want them to be in the future. So, part of that can be a good estate plan. Hey, I'm not going to support your actions knowing that you out here wild and crazy in these streets. No, you don't get any portion of the estate. I'm going to make sure that everyone who's doing what you would have wanted them to do is being compensated appropriately, right? And maybe that helps to incentivize people to become better versions of themselves because, hey, now you got a vested interest in, personal development. So estate planning is more than just a means of asset protection. It's also a means of, showing our family members, hey, loved you enough to put something aside for you. I'm hoping that you're living well, and that you're doing well, and that you continue to produce quality genetic material, as it were, to bless and benefit the world, not be another handout. All right. I'm just saying, and in our community, again, the risk and the odds of us being incarcerated just because, I mean, who manages a family member's assets, their money at the very least to help pay for, transitional expenses, funeral arrangements, right? Bank accounts to make sure that your loved one, your children, their children, your nieces, your nephews, if you don't have children, maybe a corporation that you started continues on well after you've passed, or are incarcerated for an extended period of time. We never know what may happen, but it's better to have planned it and done it early than, wish that we had done it later. And now we're rushing around to do things. I'm gonna let the video play the rest of the way. I'm not gonna say anything, and then I give you my final thoughts.
2 million. But last spring, a US tax court finally judged the case and said that Jackson's estate was worth 111 million, which would mean Prince's is valued at 156.4 million, which is interesting. Now, obviously, the Michael Jackson estate makes vast amounts of money every year, and it's certainly very good at going for those commercial opportunities. But it's interesting to see how big the Prince estate, is judged to be. And I think no one has had a vault like Prince. And that's one of the big key things he's got that almost no other artist has. He has this potential to release a new album 2-3 times a year, or super deluxe version. So there's so much potential for Prince in a way that perhaps there isn't with any other artist there's ever been. So I think we need to bear that in mind. There is some other good news in that the IRS has dropped a $6.4 million accuracy related penalty levied on the Prince estate, which is good. Now, obviously, a certain amount of this estate will be taken in tax. According to the Star Tribune, anyway, a bit more than 5 million of Prince's estate will be exempt from tax, but after that, it's 40%. In Minnesota, the first 3 million is tax exempt, after which Prince's estate will likely be taxed at 16%. So, a certain amount of money obviously is going to go to the IRS. The good thing is it's settled. The worrying thing is the future very much looks like Primary Wave will be the owners of the Prince estate, which some people would consider good, some people won't. It very much depends upon your perspective. Do you think Prince has to be pushed out there and has to be they have to make their money back, so they're going to try and put him on every opportunity they can to get that money, get that income coming, or have we got to have somebody to say, well, no, this isn't really in keeping with Prince's image. This isn't really the kind of thing that we should be doing. So it's going to be interesting there, because obviously if Primary Wave get one more sibling share, then it's going to be very much about those considerations. But overall, all in all, everyone in a sense must be happy that it's settled, because it's dragged on for so long. The Prince estate has spent millions and millions and millions on lawyers and legal fees and administration, and it was just sort of taking a toll on the estate. So hopefully this means that the Prince estate can be settled, it become a bit more solid and a bit more consistent, and we can start to really work out how we're going to make the Prince estate and his ongoing legacy a real reality. Sorry if I rambled then. It's just a few initial thoughts, but I really want to hear what you think. Do you think this is a bad thing? Do you think this is a good thing? Are you happy it's settled, but are you worried that Primary Wave will be in charge, or are you happy, that they're going to get out there and they're going to kind of push Prince, and hopefully more people will discover Prince? It's a tricky day, and it's taken a long time to get here, but this is a kind of major.
So, your thoughts? I'm curious also. What are your thoughts on this? Should his intellectual, property be taxed in the way that it is, or, should something else be considered? I think something else needs to really just be considered. So I think that it's a very interesting and unique circumstance and situation, but it's not one that a lot of our families are not unaccustomed to. All right. Estates are, that are not created are taxed at 55%. An intestate estate, an estate that basically goes through the probate court and is administered to one individual or a party of individuals by the court, which means now the court has to continue to play mediator. And I mean, like the cost and attorney fees and in court fees and court related expenses. I mean, geez, millions of dollars that could have been put to better use, gone to some of the charities that Prince stood behind and supported, and just would have just continued to have been a model for true brilliant asset protection, both in life and in death. So my hat's off to the mind of Prince. May be in a good place, And for those of you who are interested in more information on estates, how to plan your estate, how to avoid probate court, how to reduce taxes, legally, how to avoid them, not evade them. We're not doing nothing illegal. This isn't financial advice, but it is plenty of information for you to consider. Maybe a little education, hoping a lot of education, and maybe a pinch of entertainment too. So again, if you're family and you got this far in here, thank you again for watching this video. Please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already, leave a comment, tell me what I can do better, or what more information you want to hear about estates, strategizing a great asset protection strategy for your unique circumstances and situation, and how to just make sure that you're, in case ish happens, you and your loved ones are covered. Peace.